Welcome to another episode of Open for Discussion. I'm your boy, C. Maurice Ball, and today I have a young lady on here who is amazing at what she does. She's creating an avenue for exposure for minority businesses. She's a leader in her community. She's doing big, big, big things. And I'm glad she took time out of her busy schedule to come and hang out and pull up with us for a few minutes just to share her story. But y'all know what to do when y'all see the stuff scroll down. Hit that subscribe button, become part of our community, and hang out with us because we got some amazing things and some more amazing people that's going to be on deck sharing their stories. So y'all know what to do. Without further ado, kick that intro. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well. I am introducing to some and presenting to others this phenomenal, awesome woman, Miss Shauna Hailey. How are you today?
I'm good, Maurice. How's your evening going?
It is going great. It's a busy day. Spinning plates don't stop.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
It's an ongoing thing. Sometimes the plate might fall and crash and hit the ground, but it's okay. It's just this thing called life, and life be lifing. So
Just keep on moving. It's all a learning experience.
For sure. I'm glad that nobody's walking around with a shirt with my picture on the shirt that says "in love and memory of."
There you go.
So I'm always grateful for another day. So I normally have a crazy story as to how most of my guests come on my show. And most of them, outside of a handful, have been really big in TikTok or doing things on TikTok or Instagram. And so I just shoot a message and kind of stalk them a little bit. And mostly everybody's nice like yourself and say, yeah, I'll pull up. And then we end up having these conversations, and then we end up becoming family. And it's like, hey, this is good stuff. So no different. I started following, as we'll talk about a little bit later, but I started following ShoptheHood probably a year and a half ago, and I really was digging her content and the exposure and how she be clapping back at white content creators that come in and house and try to take black content creator stuff. And I was like, oh, I love how she's doing it. I love the sarcasm that goes into it of the clapback. And I was like, okay. And then started looking at what she's doing, and I started following her. And so it's been about a year and a half. And I jump in her lives and just try to engage in her community because I really love what she's doing. And so I just asked her to pull up, and she said yes. And
Yes,
here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. So where are you currently residing?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Philly.
Yeah.
My uncle lives in Philly. I keep telling him I'm gonna come out there and hang out with him.
It's a great city. It's like I kind of refer to Philly as the down south city up north.
Okay.
Because it has a very southern kind of origin story. A lot of people who originally came here from Philadelphia, our families are all from the South, and Philadelphia back in the day was a huge textile city. So there are a ton of factories here, and that's how a lot of people from North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, a lot of migration happened to come up here for work, and people just stayed. So it has that kind of a vibe and feel to it.
Was you born and raised in Philly?
Born, somewhat raised, I'll say 50-50 between Philly and Jersey. So I definitely have that. Very familiar with the inner city of Philadelphia, and then came back here for college. Lived in the burbs, lived in Jersey. So it's definitely stayed in the region. Yeah.
So you East Coast. So
I am East Coast all the way.
so music wise, you all East Coast music.
I'll say I listen to everything. I listen to the rainbow. There's not a genre of music that I don't listen to. I typically steer clear of the radio. When we grew up with listening to the radio all the time.
Hmm.
But somewhere around like the '90s, like the mid to late '90s, the ads on the commercial on the radio station was always like messing up your music. So you're just like, I can just listen to my music now that I can save it on my what was it, the those little iPad, the
The
iPad
iPod, the
shuffles.
MP3s,
Yeah,
the
they got the little
MP3s.
MP3s. Like I had my shuffle, and I had all my like couple hundred songs in my shuffle, and I was just walking down the street, and I was fine with that. And yeah, I just I listen to everything from rap and hip hop to classical, old school swing. Yeah, I listen to everything. So
I was a big, well, let me not say I was. I still am a big hip hop person, and but I was all East Coast rap, early '90s. All, I
mhm.
mean, just rap in general. All my rappers, for the most part, were all East Coast things. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Jersey Drive.
I
I,
never heard of that one.
you haven't seen Jersey Drive? Oh
No,
man,
I have to like Google
that's a
that or
classic.
YouTube it.
Um, of course, it's about some hood guys that steal cars and stuff like that. And then I went to Jersey and had fun. Jersey, I was like, man, Jersey is amazing. I had fun in Jersey. Then people was like, you don't want to go to Jersey? I'm like, man, Jersey
It depends on
is,
what part.
and that's with any city though, right?
Yeah, it
Like,
all depends on what part. Yeah.
yeah, you can come. I live in Southern Indiana right now, and there's no part. There's like there's no part. It's 1% where I live at, and we're part of that 1%. So there's no. But if you go across the bridge to Louisville, it's a different story. It,
Yes. Yeah.
it's the top 5 myrtle capital of the world. So yeah, I digress. So in your family structure, where do you fall at in your siblings? Are you the oldest, the middle, the
I am
youngest,
the youngest. I like to refer to myself as the favorite. Yes.
the favorite? I
Just
get that. I get
I
that.
always say I'm the favorite. Yes.
So how many siblings?
Oh, there's three of us. There's three.
Okay, brothers, sisters, or 2 sisters,
Oh, one older brother, one older sister.
and you are the baby,
I am the
the
baby.
favorite.
Yes, the favorite.
I can relate to that. I'm the youngest of 3 as well, so
Mhm.
I totally get that. Are y'all close?
Yes, we are close. Yes, we are.
Okay, y'all are
Like if I
close.
had to sell one, I guess I could. If you, they
Right.
just they're gonna come back. Like it's just if I had to
If you
sell one,
had to
I
trade one
could.
away, would it be
Yeah, if
your
I had to
brother or your
trade
sister?
one, yeah, I like if I could trade one away or swap one out. But I think everybody's got family members like that. And, you love each other, but sometimes like it's a Tuesday, and you're just like, yeah, they're mine.
What's
Yeah,
the
we
age
look alike.
difference?
I'm
What's the
sorry.
age difference?
Oh, we're really close in age. We're only about like 4 years apart, so we're all in the same age group. So we're all in our 50s. Yeah,
Okay, that's a good age.
yeah.
You know, 50.
50
It's
and
a new look
change.
for 50s. You know, we look.
Listen, like I think people are underestimating the 50s. Like our perspective on what 50s looked like when we were younger was like you looked at things differently as a child. Your perspectives were different. I remember thinking like my dad, my dad got into this running race with us when we were kids. And my sister was screaming like, "Oh my God, Dad, you're gonna have a heart attack!" And I'm like, "Yeah, Daddy's old. Daddy's Daddy can't run. He's 50 and change." And I'm just like, now I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm 50 and change. I'm not that old. Like, and it really is like and I think as every age group has aged, there's a youthfulness and there's more vigor in understanding that you want to take advantage of all the things that you want to enjoy in life while you can.
For sure.
And that level of youthful spirit, I think, rings through a lot of the Gen Xers and even some of the baby boomers that are still around. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was, when you in your 20s and your 30s and you talking to somebody in their 50s, you like, yo, you crazy old. Now when I go play basketball, I'm unk. They call
Yeah, we're the old heads now.
we
Like
we
we
we're,
still
we're the
feel
old
young, but
heads.
we're officially like the old heads now. Yeah.
And it's crazy because I be trying to tell my son, I have a 19-year-old son, and he think he got some swag, and the stuff that he's wearing is all stuff from the 90s. And
Hmm.
he think he done came up on something. He's like, Dad, you see, I got these baggy jeans on with these Tims. I'm like,
We did that already. Yeah, just
you're
tell them we
not
did that
doing
already.
nothing new. Y'all have yet to create anything different in this generation that y'all didn't steal from us Gen Xers.
But that's, I think that's quite indicative of every generation. Like we take from, I mean, there's still Gen Xers who do like the Betty Boop kind of era thing, and that kind of hair and makeup and styling, and every generation picks and chooses like the bits and pieces of the previous generation and kind of makes it their own in some way, shape, or form. And it's this when we see it happening in our lifetimes to the things that we were just like, well, no, we were the OGs for that. All they're doing is the same thing we did.
Right.
Like we would sit and watch TV and think about all they were like the oldies but goodies tapes that you could buy on television where you called 1-800-228-2200 and you're like, yeah, get this oldies tape, and there's all these mixed songs from the 60s and 70s. Well, now all those old songs are songs that we grew up with, and we don't consider them oldies, but
Right.
yeah, we're the oldies.
I mean, as you can see, you know, I got Prince up here, I got Michael Jackson up there, Marvin Gaye up there. So
Listen, Prince was a baller. He was like a really good playing at basketball.
yeah, the Dave Chappelle skit. Have you seen the Dave
No,
Chappelle
I didn't see
skit?
that.
Oh, Google Dave Chappelle playing Prince skit, and if you want to laugh, I promise you, you go. That thing has me
I'm
in tears.
But the crazy thing is, Prince really is a great basketball, or was a great basketball player. He actually played on his high school basketball team and was really good. Um, he was like 5'4", 5'5". He was really short, but little fun size kind of guy. But yeah, he was a really great
Fun
basketball player.
size. So in your family structure,
Hmm.
you're the youngest of three.
That's correct.
What were your parents still married when you were growing up?
But yeah, my parents were married and then they got divorced. I think it's like the typical American story.
Mhm.
But that my mother, my mom, and my dad always made sure that we had equal time with both parents. So that it was more a lot of co-parenting. So the weekends in the summer I was with my dad, and then the rest of the year was with my mom, and we just went back and forth. And as we got older, yeah, I spent a lot more time in Philadelphia, and then I stayed here and went to college here in Philly.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how important do you believe that like that male influence at a young age is when you're growing up?
I think for both children, I don't care if you're male or female, I think a father figure of some sort is quite important.
Hmm.
And um, and I know in this day and age, there's a perspective or a dynamic of what male is, but I think that with the proper guidance and the proper balance of certain roles and perspectives on how to and morals, the any type of any position where there's a relationship of sorts, either male and female, or female and female, or man and man, as long as there's two strong individuals who want to see the best for their children, they will pour into them in any way, shape, and form they can, as with good intentions, as long as there's good intentions. And I felt that, but from both my mom and my dad, they definitely never held back on like the truth of life. They always wanted to make sure that we were prepared in any way, shape, or form. Like my dad really did make sure that I could fix anything. Because if you could read, he said, if you can read,
Right.
you can fix it. Yeah,
Right.
just because we grew up with those Haynes books, and yeah, if I could read a Haynes book, I can fix a car. So I was out replacing inner CV joints and clutch cables when I was like 18 years old. Like it wasn't, shade tree mechanics was quite typical when we were kids. But I think that having a very balanced sense of uh, parenting from two entities. I think it's really, it does help. It does assist in a rounded out child. So definitely, a male for me, it was my dad that helped fill the gaps in some of the things that I've learned. My
Hmm.
mother was always straightforward and honest with us. Like, I don't know anyone I don't know anyone else who got the birds and the bees story drawn out on a paper shopping bag with a full uterus and fallopian tubes. Like, yeah, there was no mincing. There's no mincing words. There's no. I don't know. For the longest, I was like, well, where did they get the birds and the bees from? My mother's like, there's no birds. There's no bees. This is a uterus. These are fallopian tubes. I
We
was
cut
just
right to
like,
the chase.
right to the chase, just straight no chaser. I was just like, okay, I don't even. It was like a Thursday afternoon. I'm like, I was just watching cartoons, and all of a sudden, here's a conversation. But yeah, it's just truth and being very factual. But my parents were very much about the facts. Yeah.
Oh, that's great because you don't see a lot of that. Like my parents, when I got older, the reality stuff started kicking in, but at younger, and it wasn't none of that. It was like you didn't even engage with adults.
Hmm.
Like we as growing up, if adults were talking or doing anything, we
Listen.
had no say so. Don't even stop in the
Yeah.
room or anything like that. But when it came down to like life stuff, I don't think my parents did a good job until I got older at really speaking like some reality stuff. And a lot of the stuff I just had to learn the hard way. So that's amazing that your parents, equipped you at a young age to expose you to that so that you could be prepared
A little bit
instead of
more
getting out
prepared.
here
Yeah.
and be like, oh,
Yeah.
dang, why did nobody
Yeah.
tell me that?
No, no. My dad's most famous phrase was, "Don't take no wooden nickels. Don't take no wooden nickels. Don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. Just be straight up and straightforward." And it's really true how we grew up when we were kids. When the family reunions, or we were at an event where there were a bunch of adults and a bunch of kids, if I were to come in a room where there were adults, I was to be as quiet as a mouse and just stand and listen or wait until, I was properly addressed. And that's kind of how we all grew up, I think. But what ended up happening was, as we start growing up as adults, we start realizing our parents were just trying to figure it out along the way. And
Right,
they are a product of love and a little dysfunction from their parents as they grew up along the way. And I think it's the Gen Xers. It is our generation that's actually kind of putting it all together in a better way, because our grandparents came out of the Depression
right.
and dealing with racism and biases and um, like everything that went along with that, just like discriminatory acts, unemployment rates. Our grandparents had to deal with that and then still function in that, but try to shield their children from that bizarre level of reality.
Hmm.
And then our parents grew up a little bit sheltered, but a little bit under a different guise with a different set of blinders on. And we grew up, and how they were raised is the repercussions of how we were and weren't raised, based off of generational issues.
Right,
And
right,
now that we're at this time, we're just like, oh, you can have open conversations about life and be honest with your kids. And honestly, in this day and age, there is no luxury to lie, because there's so much technology that will give you like 18 different perspectives on
right.
someone's truth, or a truth about an event. So in this day and age, we as Gen Xers don't have the luxury really to have any type of false narrative. And I'm quite for me, I'll say I'm quite happy that my parents did raise me this way, simply because like it just makes it much easier to disseminate certain things. Am I perfect all the time? Absolutely not. Like, yeah, there are some things I'm just like, what happened over there? I'm just like, what's going on? I'll just sit here and be quiet and wait until I figure it all out. Yeah. But yeah, it's generational. It really is generational trauma, being
Germinate,
raised
yeah.
under, being raised under generational trauma.
That
and
become normalized.
and that is very much normalized,
Yeah,
and especially in the Black and brown community.
for sure.
And once we as like once there was at some point you realize, oh, my parents were just winging this. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I can wing it too. Wing it with technology.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and that's all we did. That's all we did.
So in your family structure, being able to have access to both parents, uh, um, having siblings at like around middle schoolish, like what was your let's say seventh, eighth grade, were the dynamics of your household kind of like altered because you had to go and be with your go over here and be with your dad for the weekend or coming back be with your mom, like some people some of the people that I grew up with had both parents in the house. I didn't.
Mhm.
I grew up with a single dad, so on weekends I would go hang out with my mom. But then I realized as I got older, man, everybody was at a single parent, except two of my maybe three of my friends had fathers in the house, but everybody else that I hung out with was a single parent. Did that have any effect on you when you were in middle school? Depending on what age they were when they decided to get a divorce.
Oh my god. I was quite young when when our parents divorced, and the craziest of all ways, we were kind of happy. just we're just like, yeah, y'all need to be divorced right about now. And I
Okay.
think I was like, I want to say I was in the second grade. My memory is with some things in my past are a little bit hazy, but the things that I can remember, I definitely remember that. I remember my mother sitting us down. My mother was just a constant communicator, sitting us down, having a full conversation about why they were getting divorced and how it wasn't a reflection upon us and
Mm,
the love that they individually had for us. And as two adults, they had that kind of a conversation with us, so that helped. Like, and honestly, at that point, we're just like, okay, just
that
like we're like,
that's
okay,
awesome.
yeah. But by the time I was in middle school, oh, this is where things gonna get kind of hazy. So the reason that it's going to get kind of hazy is simply because I was actually in a head-on collision car accident that took away some of
Wow.
my memory. So pockets of I have pockets of missed memories, but from what I can remember, I'll say middle school. Middle school, we were living in Jersey, and yeah, in living in Jersey, I want to say it was. I don't think as kids we really focused on like our parents so much. I think in that general age, you're more concerned about getting through the day and
Uh-huh.
not getting bullied.
Okay.
Just so I think like for the most part, I don't recall being that concerned or being that having that impression of the need or like I don't know if there was like a
It was just
need.
doing kid stuff, just
Yeah, I was
normal
just
kids.
you're just doing normal
Yeah.
kid stuff, hanging out with your friends, going to
Yeah.
the park. There wasn't much of like a mental. I don't think there was like a mental thought process of, am I gonna visit my dad this weekend, or I'm not gonna visit my dad, or I'm hanging out. Like I was in color guard through many years, so I did a lot of indoor color guard competitions, and that took up a lot of my weekends for years. And I was just a kid being a kid, so yeah.
Yeah, and that's that. You said a couple of things that's kind of different, and even some of the kids that I work with. When you talk about kids now internalize their parents' divorce,
Hmm.
right? Like, and it's for your mom to sit you down and to sit y'all down and say this has nothing to
Yeah,
do with y'all. It's grown folks making grown folks decision that allows you to grow up as a kid and still be able to enjoy the kid stuff without the pressures of thinking it's because of you that your parents are not together.
yeah,
that
yeah,
that saves that saves man, that's some good stuff right there. Like,
yeah. My mother is an amazing woman.
yeah,
She
it
really
sounds
is.
like
Yeah.
it. It's like your mom is really amazing. Were you a good student?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So you had two siblings ahead of you that you learned from pretty quick. Did you see them make moves and be like,
Um,
I ain't gonna make the moves that they made because I see the outcome.
no, like the funny thing is like if you look at all three of us, we are all the three of us we are all very different. Um Someone once classified us as my brother is the strong silent type. My sister was like Miss Prim and Proper and this Miss Princess, and I was Miss Congeniality. And yeah, I think that was I was like we're like we are three distinct personality types and we move in three distinctly different ways. But I don't think I spent much time using them as markers because the things that I was interested in, they weren't. I don't recall them being interested in at all.
Mm,
So yeah, yeah, my brother was like I think the one commonality that we all have is that we've all been working really since we were kids. Like we've all figured out how to work at a very young age. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So throughout high school you work were you like that straight and narrow kid all the way up or did you or were there some pockets in there where you had to learn life the hard way?
No, like I think I was a pretty straight laced kid. There was like a couple of hiccups along the way. I think every kid like has a couple run-ins with police just as par for the course, but nothing that's like a permanent like scar on my record or anything like that. It's just you start to realize at a very young age, being black in America, you will encounter or have some type of incident with a police officer in some way, shape, or form, be it your fault or not. And honestly, in one of those instances is absolutely not was not a normal situation. um I think for me, I was just like, I just wanted to get over. I just wanted to get through school. Like I was one of those kids. Like, let me just get my grades, do what I needed to do. Not like I was just like a keep my head down kind of kid, and
Hmm.
have try to have as much fun along the way. But I was pretty much a quiet kid all through high school.
And then you got to college.
Then I got to college. I was still quiet, but there were just some not so quiet things. There's some not so quiet things that happened while I was in college. Yeah,
Well, I mean that's part of life though, right?
it
Like
is. Yes,
and
yeah,
so that's the thing. Like you done what you done, and all through college. When that Freaknik video dropped, everybody was wilding about being in the video and being that Freaknik and all this other stuff. And I told everybody, if you see me in the video, I was there. I'm not. I ain't trying to negate anything. I was there. And if that video showed me doing something that I was doing, I was probably doing what the video showed me
yeah.
doing.
Like there's like no lies told. If it's on video, it's on video. But I don't think like with the like Freaknik went on for years. Like that went on for years. Good luck in finding all of the people that were there. I mean, good luck.
So you graduate and you get to college. Was where did you have okay, let me just say this. Your mom was your mom was working, so y'all were y'all latchkey kids like most of us, come home, do what
Yep,
you're supposed to make sure your assignments, your chores are done and dinner's cooked, dishes washed, don't go outside, all those things.
yep.
So when you got to college and you have this sense of freedom, what was that like where you didn't have when you didn't have your brother and sister watching over you, and then you had the ability to move how you wanted to move?
I don't think that it was for me. It wasn't like that.
Okay.
I when I moved to I moved back into Philadelphia, I was living with my grandmother. My grandmother and my dad lived in Philadelphia, and it just made it easier for me to go to college. But my where we lived was nowhere near the university, so it still took me time. It took me time to get on campus. Um, so by the time I made it home, still had like my homework to do. So it like literally it was college was just an extension of high school in regard
Okay.
time wise. I was programming back then, so I spent a lot of time at the computer center. Yeah, everything I was time managed to the minute. Like time management and me were BFFs. Yeah,
So again, straight and narrow.
I tried.
Just
Yeah.
just a little fun. Did you? Did your college have fraternities and sororities?
Yes, but I did not participate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a coder. So you're a programmer.
I went to school for computers and informational sciences. Yeah.
Oh wow. And did you finish? Is that what your undergrad is in?
No, I did not finish. I ended up getting the job that I wanted my junior year. Is something my junior year, and I worked at a company that I was really wanting to work at. I was recruited by them, worked there in '95, and realized this sucks.
Right.
Just like, oh my god, this sucks, and this is why I worked this hard to get this, and this sucks. Yeah, I was yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was really wild. Yeah, I would leave school, I would leave my programming class, uh drive right to work, and be in the office all day. And by the time I would leave that campus, because that was a whole nother campus, by the time I left that campus, I was just like, okay, now it's time to go back to another campus and take my evening class, because like there's just no other way to do it. And I was just like, okay, this really sucks. Like I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life, simply because the fact that I loved computers at the time, and
Uh-huh.
they were fun, and going that route and doing it that way made me see that this was not like the path that I was meant to be. I was not meant to sit in an office all day, on the computer programming. It wasn't like it was in a lab. In the lab, you have a bunch of kids
Hmm.
laughing, giggling, hanging out, programming stuff, teaching each other things, and learning new tricks. Yeah, every once in a while, the FBI would come in, but it had nothing to do with me. Just nothing to do with me. Um, just nothing to do
So
with
we
me.
say, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not kidding. Like that was never me.
I
Yeah.
was in the room, but I wasn't.
Just nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Yeah, there's the FBI came by quite often. Yeah, and at one point, like, was it the CIA was recruiting IT kids, and a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine at the time, we got into a really deep conversation as to what that be. Do I really want to go down that path? And I realized, no, I do not want to be this deep into IT, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I find it really kind of crazy. You look back now, like, at, we're over 50, and we ask kids to make lifelong decisions when they don't even know who they are.
For sure.
And when people, you talk about your childhood, and whatever milestones you went through, it brings you to where you are and who you are to this day.
Hmm.
But you start making lifelong decisions when you don't even have enough life experience underneath your belt. So you're asking 18, 19, 20 year olds to make lifelong decisions about where they want to be and who they want to grow into. And I could easily say most of us we're just winging it. We're just trying to figure things out along the way, and we're still just taking classes, sticking to this um established regimen of going to school a certain time frame of the day, and working out these methodologies, and being these like proper worker bees. But we never knew what happiness really was. Like, there's nothing that you really taught, or something that was kind of instilled in you. You were just trying to go along with the program, or figure out what the program's going to be today, and
Hmm.
how that's scheduled in.
Hmm.
And now, in this day and age, it's really great to see how young kids are taking the time out to find their own personal happiness and find their own path, no matter how long it may take. But I think it's the better path worth taking for most people. Some kids knew exactly what they wanted to be. Like,
Right.
some kids wanted to be an asshole, and they still are assholes.
Right. Right. I think we end up following patterns of our parents and our grandparents, that all they did, they worked jobs that they didn't like,
Mhm.
and they worked those jobs for 20, 30, 40 years, and they didn't like it. And then when we got to that, when the baton was handed to us, we tried to fit in that box and realize, like, I'm not wired like that to be doing something for 40 years.
Yeah.
And And so like my wife, she's from Pontiac. Pontiac is where GM is. So
Yep.
everybody's goal was to get out of high school and go work into the plant and
The
go get
plant.
on at the
Yeah.
plant and work at the plant for 20, 30 years. Well, I grew up in inner city Indianapolis. That wasn't an option. Like my dad worked at Amtrak. And so I didn't have no desire to go work at Amtrak. Like I didn't
Listen,
have a
you didn't want to work in the yard and move trains at night
I did
or
not want to. That
yeah,
that was not no, and I was actually a really good athlete, and I
yeah.
had opportunities to play. But my dad was never big into the sports like that. Like he
Mhm.
supported and he pushed to make sure that I was the best. But his whole thing, I had three options as employment when I was in high school, and it was my dad told me I was going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer. Those were my only three options. Now, he wasn't a doctor, he wasn't a lawyer, and he wasn't an engineer. I don't know if any of his friends were. Why? Because we ain't talk to adults. So how am
Yeah.
I supposed to become this doctor, lawyer, or engineer? And I ain't even got no examples. And
Yeah,
and
it's
so but we follow these patterns.
yeah.
And so we try to fit the pattern that we see our parents and our grandparents do, and we realize like that's just not that's not for us.
And actually, those are that particular perspective is actually the mindset that many banks and universities use when assigning loans to kids. They ask you for your parents' information because typically most kids don't stray that far away from the socioeconomic group that their parents are in.
Hmm.
It's I want to say it's less than 10%. So they base how much money they lend kids and universities off of the financial bracket that your parents are in. And at one point, and I want to say this is true, that they realized that, or I don't know, actually, I can't say realized, but there's an ideology that if you had lost your father, that you could get a easier entry into universities because the father was considered the breadwinner.
Mm.
But in this day and age, yeah, I don't think they care.
Nah,
Just
not one bit.
you get a loan, you get a loan, you get a loan. Like, yeah, they just want to keep people in debt for as long as possible.
And
But
that's
yeah,
why now that you said that, I could look back and see. Um, I graduated in '92, and so some of the questions that were asked on the application was the education level of my
your
parents.
parents, yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think my mom was just a high school graduate, and my dad, he was college educated and all that other stuff.
mhm,
Um, and so you don't, I until you said it, I didn't pay no attention to that, and I
yeah,
could see how they can factor that into their marketing, into the psyche of playing to that person's
yeah.
need. Yeah.
It's like and then it's really hard understanding, like, not to say hard understanding, but it's really a different swing between our grandparents generation, our parents generation, and ours, simply because the jobs back then and our grandparents generation were nothing but factories. Like, all there
Hmm.
were the only jobs they could supposedly get were a factory job or a nanny or some type of hands-on a skilled labor kind of job.
Hmm.
And when you could get a job where the jobs back then, people kept for a lifetime, and you just worked. There was a ladder that you could work your way up. I mean, there was a ceiling for a lot of people of color, but there was a ladder in a lot of these organizations, a lot of these corporations, where you would just work your way up the ladder. And at the end of your tenure there, you'd get that gold watch or that brass ring or whatever it was, and you could actually retire.
Hmm.
And somewhere in our generation, while we were growing up, all that fell apart. Like, there were no a lot of the corporations gave up the pension plans and the retirement plans, and they swapped that out for a 401(k), which allowed more businesses to hold on to much more of their revenue throughout the year.
Hmm.
And when you start realizing it was our generation, the Gen X generation, where things change from saying, okay, I'm going to be at this company for the rest of my life. And that's what your parents are really wanting for you, to find a job that you could sit at and just stay there for 20, 30 years,
Yep.
and properly retire from it with a nice little pension check. But those jobs are few and far between. And in our generation, it became normalized that you spent 2 to 5 years at best at a company, learning all you could, taking that information, knowledge, and experience, and moving on to the next job.
Hmm.
Because there was no, like, these people start realizing, okay, if I'm not going to be able to retire here, I better do the most I can with what I've got, learn as much as I can, take all the experience and knowledge I can get from this one company, and then step up to another company. So you're climbing the corporate ladder, but you're doing it from, you're literally hopping from one company to another company, and that
Yeah,
became very much normalized. So
and that's very very normalized now. Like these
mhm.
young folk, boy, they stay they not nowhere for no kind of time.
Yeah, I
They
think
they
yeah, I think
they
in this
in and out
generation, yeah, I think in this generation, they look at it also in a different perspective. They don't want to wait until they're 60 years old to reap the rewards of retirement and have that time to exhale and relax. They want to exhale and relax while they can, when they can, because
for
I
sure.
think it's not like this YOLO thing, but it's one of those things like you don't want to miss out or have missed opportunity to do something and experience something. And life is really about the experiences that you can have. And these kids are understanding that, okay, let me do it now. If I have the ability and to do it within my means, why not just hop on a plane, fly to Indonesia, and stay there for a month or two?
Right,
And I applaud that audacity, because a lot of us, a lot, even to this day, there are a lot of people in the United States who've never left their tri-state area,
for sure.
so or left the United States, let alone that. So
Or even
it's
left like when people that live in a small town got that small town mentality, and you
mhm,
might go a 3 hour radius, but you never go any further than that.
that's yeah. Yeah.
And but that and then the mentality in that is so it puts a cap on your experience.
Yeah, it is very limiting.
So
Yeah,
yeah, your
it does
experience
that.
is
It
limited
limits your intellectual growth, because
for
you're
sure.
not experiencing different, even in the United States. You can go from state to state and experience different societal norms. What's normal in Philadelphia is different than what's normal in New York City. What's normal
Hmm.
in New York City is vastly different than what's normal in Buffalo, New York. So you can even be in the same state and have different experiences. But if you choose not to venture out to explore your world or your surroundings, then you will absolutely limit you're going to limit your growth and your intellectual heft overall.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So now you're this college student that done left college and jumped into this professional world, thinking like, "Hey, this is it." Realizing one, you're probably the only minority in that space, especially in that time.
Um,
No,
I had to think about that. Actually, no, I did have this one mentor. Because he actually pulled me out of a meeting once. I'll never forget that. Um, I was in a meeting and I was having my ass handed right to me over something I didn't know what they were talking about. It had absolutely nothing to do with me. And when I went to go, I think the guy, I can't remember his name right now, but it'll hit me at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, when the guy who was my mentor saw that I was getting a little irate in my response, and I was about to step forward and really declare like this entire scenario was complete bullshit, he grabbed me by my arm and pulled me out of the meeting. And he impressed upon me. He goes, "I'm just gonna let you know. I think I probably just saved your career." And he says, "You may want to calm down." And I was just like, I said, "But I was right." And he was just like, "Right and wrong mean nothing here." And in that moment, I was just like, "What are you talking about? Like the truth really should always win over." And it doesn't. Right and wrong really doesn't mean anything in the corporate arena. And it was like that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. And I was really young. I was in my early 20s. Um, and because you think like the truth will always win out, and it's always do the right thing, and that all those little things that they teach you and impress upon you as you're going through college and ethics classes and things like that. um but in the real world, it's more of a partnering thing, and who are you aligning yourself with, and it really is like an escalated version of high school, but with more money and power suits.
for sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, I
Did you
just
find yourself code switching?
that's normal, and I think in the arena, in that type of arena, code switching is absolutely normalized, and
Hmm.
is normal, and I think in some degree expected, simply because like they don't they don't want North Philadelphia, Shauna. They didn't want that. They just they want their information factual, and it's not like is there a huge difference between how I sound right now and how I sound when I'm with family and friends? Not that much, but when you make me angry, you'll definitely hear it. Um, but I think code switching is a coping mechanism that indicative of the Black community to make sure that we stay safe, and it is absolutely a normal thing. I think that for people who say, "Oh, it's a terrible thing," it's not a terrible thing. You have to.
Yeah.
It's part of adapting. You know,
Right.
there are creatures, there are animals on this planet whose level of adaptation is that they can change the shade of their skin to blend in.
Right.
Our ability to speak a different language or speak in a different tone or dialect, or I don't want to, and I never want to use the word clean up our language, because how we speak is normal. How people speak, no matter where you are, no matter where you're from, is normal. But we have this level of colonialization that we have to adapt
Right.
to be part of the system that some people actively need to be a part of, so that they can move their career forward, so that they can be as financially stable as they are, so that they can take care of their family.
For
And
sure.
that's what I quickly learned when in that office arena, was that at the point when I was that young and I'm looking at people 2 3 times my age, who and many times I was firing, because my first job was to come in as a attrition consultant and relieve a lot of people of their duties. um it makes you realize, I'm like, okay, these people are pretty much camped out here because they have nothing else to do, and they're stuck simply because they have a house, they have a mortgage, they've got kids, they've got tuition to pay for their kids, they've got all this extra weight of financial liability and financial obligation that they have to take accountability for, and their only way of being able to make sure that they can do that is to keep the job that may not make them happy.
And that is 100% on point. But I the term code switching really is a new term. We were taught. I was taught to be able to adapt into the room. I was. It was not like, hey, you go in there and be the hood dude from East Side of Indianapolis. No, you got to assimilate with the with whatever space that you're in. And it was nothing wrong with that. Like code switching and imposter syndrome, all this stuff is new terms that are just recent within the last 5 years that we now kind of look back into. But I look at it and say, like, my wife normally is the only woman in her position, and she's normally the only black woman in her or minority in her position, across the board. And there was a period where she had to adapt to be able to navigate in order to be in rooms and sit in tables and get the access.
Mhm.
Now, at the age that we are, I don't code switch. I don't impart you. This is the dude that you get. When I show up in business meetings, when I show up in my spaces that I'm in, I do a lot of stuff in community. I'm no longer code switching, because what I've learned is that you're going to either accept me for who I am or you're not. But I'm not going to try to fit your what you think your perception of me.
Yeah,
I,
but I think all of that does take time and experience.
oh,
And
absolutely.
there's like it, and I can only equate it to like Karl Marx. Karl Marx didn't like really invent a lot of things. He just gave verbiage to things. I think Karl Marx is the one who gave the terminology of proletariat and bourgeoisie. And it wasn't the fact that these groups didn't exist. It was just the fact that these groups had always existed, but no one gave it a name. And
Hmm.
he just gave it a name. And so now we've got, you talk about the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and once you have this level of, and that is very indicative of growth, like as you went from elementary school to middle school to high school to college, as you're growing up and growing into who you are. now you're accepting of who you are, who and how
Yes.
you are. That
Yes.
still took time for you to get there. And it really is like refine, it's just like knocking the edges off a diamond. So it could speak to your levels of insecurity as or being uncomfortable in a different space. But if you're not accustomed to being in certain spaces, you're more likely to acclimate to mirror or be a reflection of what the room looks like. And
Hmm.
most people are, it's most easiest to do that than to be the outlier, to be the person that stands out and is different amongst the masses. So I think that's quite normal that once you get to a certain age, I want to say like I think I was in my mid 30s or early 40s when I was just like, you know what, this is who and how I am. And this is why a lot of women love men who like there's this energy about maturity. Like once you're just like, you know what, this is me. You're
Right.
no longer that kid who's trying to fight and do backflips and do all these things to get that little girl's attention. You're just that man who's strong within yourself. You know who and how you are. You know who you're not, which is even more important. And that helps define your character and your stance and your position. And once you know who you are, it makes it easier for you to be you.
For
But when
sure.
you don't know yourself, it makes it that much more difficult. So you will be, you'll constantly be flip flopping and acclimating all over the place. Code. But I don't want to think that code switching doesn't is an indicator that you aren't, you don't know who you are. I don't want to say, I don't want to equate those two things together. Because I think every situation is a little bit, everyone's situation is a little bit
It's a little
different.
different.
But I will say that code switching is absolutely part of normal society, and it's not, I don't want to say it's just a, a black is it's a coloristic thing, because you do have people who are white, and especially people who are impoverished and white, who get into spaces where they're in a middle class or upper middle class situation, and they too have to feel that feeling of insecurities in a group that looks like them, reflects the same image, but yet and still
Hmm.
they know that there is a gap of something that makes them feel a little bit different or as the outcast, and they will start to acclimate themselves and code switch in other ways. And it's not just language, it's behaviors and mannerisms as well.
Right. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's. Ooh, I I feel smarter.
It's
Man.
just- yeah.
Oh, like
It's
that was you articulated that very well. And
oh
okay.
yeah,
So
you think
now
about things.
you go back to you so you now you're in, so what did you do when you got out of programming? What did you transition into?
I was actually in Indianapolis. I went to,
Idiot.
yes, yes, I did. I went to Indianapolis. I used to work for an airline called American Transair.
I remember American Trans Air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ATA, you're on vacation. Um, I I was at a party one day. I had roommates when I was younger, when I was working in IT, and I came home. I just got finished. Oh my God, this is like a crazy story. I have like a lot of interesting moments in my life. There was one of my employees who committed suicide outside of
Mm,
my apartment complex,
mm.
and it was very unnerving. And he literally just sat down on the highway right next to my apartment building, laid out in the highway, and waited for a car to run him over. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And then it was just like one thing after another in that time period. And I remember thinking, like, I came home from work and I was just exhausted and I was upset. I had to you know fire several employees, and my roommates and I had a party. We threw a party one night, and one of the people at the party was just like, "You should like be a flight attendant or something." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hire some big black chick to come skipping up and down the aisles." And so she's like, "No, no, like it's just not like that." I'm like, she goes, "No, we hire." I was like, "You are a little white girl with big." I was like, and I literally said like, they hire like blondes with big tits and da da da. I said, "I am not that." And she's like, "No, that's not true." I'm like, "Okay, you're brunette with big tits. Like, what's the difference?" And so she was just like, "No, no." She goes, "You really should do it." Because I was literally in the kitchen making all the hors d'oeuvres and, hammering out the chicken, just tenderizing it with a mallet, working out some like daily frustration. And something that what she said, and I was just like, you know what? I've always wanted to travel. Let me just see what this looks like. And there was a serious there's a serious reduction in pay at the time. And I figured, you know what? I'm not, at the time I wasn't married. At the time I had no kids. I was just like, okay, this is the best time to take a leap. And if it doesn't work out, then I can always come back to IT.
Hmm.
And I called my mom and I told her what I was thinking about doing. And she was just like, okay. just, just, I was just, she said, I will support you in whatever you want to do. And I was just like, no, mommy, seriously, you may have to like actually support me because there's a huge pay cut. Like at the time, my salary went from a very nice, comfortable salary,
Uh-huh.
which
Uh-huh.
yeah, higher than the standard average, to $13,995.02.
Oh, you was poor. Like you went way
Mm,
below the poverty line.
I was not poor. I was because the joke was I once I got to like my fourth year, I was just like, I can afford the pee. Yeah. Yeah, it was my mother was like, I was surprised. I said, no, mommy, like seriously, here's my salary. You may actually need to like cut me a check on a regular. And so she was just like, well, God will make a way if this was the right. I was just like, okay, God will make a way.
But he made a way though, right?
Yes, yes, he did. God made a way because, like, my mother never had to cut me a check. Thank goodness, my mother never cut me a check, and I made it work. And my first flight was to Italy, and ATA was an amazing airline to work for. We did a lot of military troop movement. Oh my God, we had around the world flights. We were the largest charter airline in the United States for almost, I think it was like 35 years,
Hmm.
and it was just an amazing time. I learned a lot. I've lived overseas. It afforded me a different perspective, a on America and b on in life. Um, it was a great experience. I met I have some lifelong friendships, some people I consider family. ATA, I think, and it made me realize that at some juncture in everyone's life, they should find an airline to work for just to travel, just to leave the country. And it afforded me that ability to be to just transition, to be transitional. And it also gave me, like, doing military troop movement was an eye opener.
Hmm.
Nothing like asking somebody to move their M16 out the way. Like, yeah, just put your weapons underneath the seats, butts to the aisle. Like, it was a crazy experience. Going to places all over the world where people didn't, like, I never knew places existed. Even the locals didn't know some of these places that were there. I've been in really interesting situations. Yeah,
So how long did you do that?
for a very long time.
Very long time.
till, till the last day. To the last day. ATA closed up, and yeah. Then I had to transition to another career. So yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, I was there for yeah, oh my God, I was there for years, and yeah, it's a crazy experience. Like, um, almost getting mugged, almost getting mugged in places, getting into bar fights. Like, it was just, I got
Bar
into
fights.
yeah, I've gotten into several bar fights in Ireland. You protect your
Not the
people.
young lady that was straight and narrow that followed all the rules.
Oh no, I got hands. Oh, I got
Oh,
hands. Like,
okay.
people didn't really,
So
just
so so
they
so
never see
so
it coming.
so in all those follow the rules and you know doing right, you can throw those.
Listen, here's the thing. Here's the reality. So when I was a kid, and I thank my brother for this.
Hmm.
And he taught me it in the weirdest way possible. My brother used to beat me up a lot when we were kids, and when we got older, he was just like, "Yeah, I was just trying to toughen you up." I was like, "Russell, if ever I am being pulled down a flight of steps by my feet, I'm losing the fight. Just trust me, I'm losing the fight." And he was just like, he's no, no, no. He says, but it toughened you up, right? So yeah, you toughened me up. My brother toughened me up. Um, my dad was a Marine. That runs through the family. And yeah, it made me realize it makes you think differently. I cycled for years. I was always on my bike when I was a kid, and that gives you a different perspective of how to look at things, and you start seeing things coming at you from different, and things really start to move in slow motion. um
Right.
yeah, so so yeah, I when we were overseas, it was always understood that we took care of each other, because sometimes we were all we had,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
to sometimes have to be escorted by armed guards into certain countries, or yeah, when I got into a couple bar fights in Ireland. Nothing in Italy or Spain, but yeah, I got into a couple bar fights in Ireland.
So you got hands. She said, I got nah, she like, you better
It's
recognize I'm from
like, here's the,
Philly.
I
This
don't
what
think
we
people would quite
do.
understand. It's a survivalist thing, Somebody, one of my back then, one of my coworkers has made a comment that she'd be afraid to go up against a passenger, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you talking about? I said, I was just like, it's like, here's the reality. I said, who do you want to call home to tell your kids or your husband that you're not coming home? And I said, or even because, and that didn't connect with her. It really didn't. And
Mm.
I said, okay. I said, how would you feel if somebody put their hands on your kids in a malicious way, and you could see her body just swell up? I said, hold on to that. I said, hold on to that feeling. And I said, because every time somebody goes to put their hands on you to do you harm, they're harming your connection with your children.
Mm.
They're taking you away from your children. I
Mm-hmm.
said, that level of ferocity, I said, hold on to that, because you're going to need it. And I said, one day you're going to need it. I said, you just never know when that day's going to come. I said, but anytime somebody goes to put their hands on me, I said, or the crew that I'm with overseas, I will absolutely defend them. I said, because in the end of the day, we are all we've got.
Yeah.
And it didn't make a difference if you liked your crew members or you didn't like them. We'd be on the road together for 15 days at a time, 20
Mm-hmm.
days at a time, and all we had was each other in some places. And if something went down, we showed up. Like, we wanted to know what happened, where they were, what bar, what yeah. And were we like a pack of wild kids running around like tearing up countries? No. No, it wasn't like that, but nobody really went out by themselves alone. You always like there's we always went out with like two, anywhere between 2 and 8 people all together, depending on like who you're flying with. But we had a sense of family at ATA. It was absolutely a sense of family, and it was very much pervasive all the way through to our headquarters. And I was just telling this story not too long ago, where one of the most like horrible moments of my life, I relied upon our hotel schedulers to get me through it. I came home from a flight one day, and my best friend left this like cryptic message on my answering machine. I didn't know what was going on, and because I had never heard him sound like that before. And finally, I was just like, I had called him and called him, he didn't answer, and I finally called his mom. And when I called his mother's house, some guy answered. I'm like, "Who are you? And where? Where's she at?" He was like, "Oh, she had a heart attack." And I was just
Wow.
like, "What?" I said, "Well, where is she?" He was like, "Oh, she's up in, Boston." I'm like, "Okay." So slapped the costume back on, hopped on a plane, went out to Boston. And I had no idea where I was going. I said, "Well, do you know what hospital she's at?" And he told me the hospital. So Lily took a cab right from the airport to the hospital with luggage, like literally just all in ATA costume. And I get to the hospital, and I found where she was. I found the room, and there my best friend was there. He was standing, and I was just like, okay, somebody tell me something, because I heard she had a heart attack and I'm here. And they
Mm-hmm.
were just shocked that I showed up. And I was just like, yeah, like, what, you think I'm gonna stay at home and wait?
Right.
So next thing you know, we realized like she's gonna be okay, but she's gonna stay there for a couple days. So I was gonna drive back with him from Boston, and I said, let's just go get a hotel room. I said, you know what, you stay here, I'll figure out the hotel. I'll figure out a hotel. So I go back and I find a hotel, a Holiday. I want to say it was a Holiday Inn, and I go into the hotel. There's like nobody in the parking lot. There's like maybe two cars in the parking lot, and it was close enough to the airport that it made it easy. And I was just like, okay. So I get to I get to the front desk, and the girl says, yeah, we're sold out. I'm like, you're sold out. I'm looking at the parking lot, and I'm like, there's nobody even in the lobby. I said, what do you mean you're sold out? And she goes, we're sold out. I'm like, okay. I said, well, can you recommend another hotel in the area? I'm not familiar with Boston at all. And so she goes, what do I look like, a directory? Okay, all right, okay. Listen,
Kiss these
Boston's not my
hands.
town. Not my town, but okay, I got something for you. I come. There's always a backup. So like, take my bag, and I walk out, and I walk across the street to a gas station, and it's like a gas station mechanics kind of shop. And next thing you know, just pick up the payphone, call ATA, and the schedulers knew us, so we knew all the schedulers. And I spoke to the guy in hotels. I was like, "Hey, Mike," I said, "I need your help." And he was just, "Yeah, what's going on?" So I explained to him the situation, and I said, "Could you please?" And he was just like, "Are they really trying to tell you that you can't stay at that hotel?" I said, "Yeah, I think they are." I said, "I swear there's plenty of rooms there." And he goes, "Hold on." He put me on hold. He calls the hotel, and he comes back on the phone. He says, "Shauna, I just called there and asked them if they could block off a room of a flight crew of 12 people. And they said that they could do that. And I told them that the crew members will be coming in to pay for the rooms individually, because we all had company credit cards, which was true.
Mhm.
Um, they all have company credit cards, and they'll pay for the hotel room if they choose to stay in Boston, because but they just need to make sure that there were 12 rooms blocked off for the flight crew. And that hotel said they were fine. And he called the hotel directly.
Uh-huh.
And so I walked back across the street, on back across the street. And I was just like, and she says, I told you that we are sold out. And I'm like, hi, my name is Shauna. I'm from ATA. I understand that my company has blocked off 12 hotel rooms. I said, I will be the only crew member that will be staying here. Everyone else has gone home. And here's my card. And she looked at me like she could just burn me down. And I'll just I'm like, listen, there is always a backup to this. Like I always got something. And so she says, well, that'll be $100 cash deposit. I said, $100 cash deposit. Who cares? I said, is there an ATM machine here? Not a big deal. And so she was like, no, we don't have an ATM machine here. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. So I walked 2 blocks, got the cash, came back, and at the front desk, there's a guy there now. And I said, hey, here's my $100. I just need the room. And he was like, what are you talking about? We only take credit cards. And I literally was just like, you know what? I'm not even going to go back and forth with this. I was like, okay, here's the card. Here's the card. Take it, charge it, whatever you want to do. I just need a room. So I get the room. I go back to the hospital. Me and my best friend say our goodbyes to his mom, and we start driving because he drove up there. We start driving back to the hotel. What you think would be an easy thing to do? It's like a Tuesday afternoon, not much traffic going on. We go through this 5 point intersection, and I swear, like my best friend is that guy. He is a great driver. Like I trust him with my life. I've known him since I was 15 years old, so I trust him to no end. And all of a sudden we hear police sirens, and I was just like, "Did you just run a red light or something?" And he was like, "Shauna, no, no, I did not." I'm like, "Okay, okay, huh." So next thing you know, we pull over, and I was like, maybe he's trying to pass us. And no, he's pulling us over. So he pulls us over, and I said, let me handle this. So I took off my coat, still wearing my uniform. It's a really long day. Took off my coat as I sat in my uniform. And the police officer's license and registration, he looks over and sees me. And I said, excuse me, officer, is there a problem? I said, we're headed toward the airport, which is true. We're heading
Uh-huh.
toward the airport. Toward the airport. We're heading toward the airport. I work Freedom Bird flights, and I handed him my ID. And he was like, "Oh, you fly the Freedom Bird?" I said, "Yes, all the time, all the time." I said, "I am high risk trained. I am high risk trained." That was like an actual certification that we were high risk qualified. And he was just, "Oh, okay." He says, "Well, where are you flying off to now?" I said, "Listen, for security purposes, I can't discuss that." And we never discussed, for security purposes, we never discussed where exactly we were actually going.
Hmm.
And he's, oh no, I understand that. I understand that. I'm like, okay, get back in the car. All right. He hands me my ID back. He's like, okay, you guys can go. And I'm like, okay, cool. And my friend's like, what? That was, I don't know. I don't. I said, but let's just slowly pull off and get out of here. So we pull off and we drive down another mile, I guess, and we get pulled over again. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? What is going on in Boston? He was just like, you never been to Boston, have you? I was like, no, no, I have not. It is not good here for us.
Right.
So next thing you know, it was just pretty much a repeat of the first. We got pulled over, I think, twice. And then we made it to the hotel and just passed out. And I was just like, I just need to get out of this city. Like it was, yeah, it yeah, I've traveled. I've had some experiences. I've
So,
traveled, I've
so
had experiences. Racism is abound. Like it's worse in America than any other place I've been. Um, I've been served because I was not served on a couple occasions because I was a woman, and I needed to have a man by my side. In northern Florida, on a last minute reroute, we were almost sent to the Black Hotel. Yeah, America is always an interesting place to be. So
yeah,
that's why I
America
encourage people.
is
Yeah, that's why I encourage people to leave the country as often as they possibly can.
for sure. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So you IT, you became a certified flight attendant, then you transitioned into
For that, for security purposes, I'm gonna
for
have to keep that in. For security purposes.
say you worked with Tommy from Martin, you know, and
Yeah, for
yeah,
security
me and Tommy
purposes.
worked in the streets
Yeah,
over here.
in the streets over there. But yeah, I am employed. I will say that I really don't mention the company that I work for my,
Oh, you
personal
don't
reasons. Yeah,
you don't have
but
to. I'm just
yeah,
saying. So what did you? So what field
I'm
did you?
still I'm still in the airline industry.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. So so in this journey, you're traveling and everything. You are out here doing things. You said, did you get married? Did you?
No, I did not. I was
Okay.
proposed to several times, but I just said no.
And you
They were
said
they were
no.
great guys, but for other women.
Oh, okay. So you never been married?
Never been married.
Do you have any children?
Nope.
Okay.
I've got a couple computers.
Hey, they're babies.
Listen, those are my babies. Listen,
You
don't
got to
take my
nurture
computers
them
away.
and
And then I've
add
got
more stuff
weaponry.
to
Those are my
them and
babies
build them
too.
up.
Yeah, like I've got a couple weapons that those are my babies too. I'm like, nothing like it was
So
just
you mentioned that you had a head on car accident.
that's correct.
How long ago was that?
That was 2003, 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. Yeah, yeah. It was a bad accident. I almost
What
died.
did how do you can you remember what happened or
Yeah. Of all the things I can remember, that I can remember as clear as day. I was training for an MS 150, which is a 150 mile bike ride from across the state of Jersey and back. And while training, I think I was on a 60-mile training day heading back home. And when I hit about 30 miles an hour, I was in a head-on collision with a car that was trying to cross over a lane of traffic, and it forced a head-on collision with me. Yeah, separated,
wow.
partial separation of my shoulder, cracked my sternum in half, severe closed head injury. Um, yeah, I vividly remember everything about that, and I also remember not recognizing who my brother was. Yeah, yeah, it was a
That okay, so
yeah.
how long did it take you to fully recover from that?
Physically, I think about I think it was about a year. I think I was back to work in about 9 months. No, no, no. Sorry, sorry. I was back to work in 6 months and 3 days because I Short-term disability was 6 months, and I went 3 days over that. But yeah, like my knee was torn apart a bit, so that was an issue. Sternum was cracked in half, but that healed fairly well, and everything else was just like stitches in my face, stitches in my arm. My shoulder is partially separated, but it wasn't a complete separation. So it's still hanging on.
Right.
It's still hanging.
It
It's
still
still hanging
works.
in there. Just
I got
she's still
It's like
hanging.
that trick
Yeah.
knee. I gotta jiggle it around a
Yeah,
little
like
bit.
it doesn't do any tricks. Like I was like, yeah, I wish I do have any tricks, but this isn't. I don't. Yeah, I can still pop lock and block it. Yeah, yeah. No fancy tricks, but I think the longest issue I have is the memory loss. There are just some things I just don't remember at all, which is interesting because they said, well, that section of the head is like your short term memory only, and I'm like, yeah, where's all my long term memory stuff? Like, there's just like pockets of blanks, and some people will just absolutely have to remind me of things. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, and I just, just so yeah, my friends, I tell like my best friend the guy that I was talking about earlier. I said, yeah, so you hold on to my childhood, like all of my childhood, all of high school. I said he has all of those memories. Because I don't remember most of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you walked away from a head-on injury. Um,
Can't quite say walked, but there was like
w-
a
uh,
helicopter.
helicopter.
Helicopter took pictures. The ambulance came and drug me off. Yeah.
You made it
Yeah, I made it. Yeah.
because it sounded like your mom was a praying mother.
Oh my God, my mother prays for me every day.
Yeah.
She prays for all of us. She does. My mother is the first thing she does when she wakes up is she prays, and the last thing that she does before she closes her eyes is she
She
prays. So
prays. So, so are you a spiritual person?
I'm spiritual but not religious,
Oh, I
if that
dig
makes
it.
sense. Yeah.
I totally dig that. I totally dig that. Yeah, religion hurts is could be damaging. So I totally get that. Did you ever have a desire to be married?
Yeah, I think
Do
I
you have
still
a
do.
desire to be married?
Yeah, I think I still do want to get married. And one day I'll meet a great guy and ta-da.
Is there a reason why you just stayed single? Like you said, it was great guys that proposed to you, but they just wasn't for you. What was the what was the flags or lack of flag? What's keeping you single right now?
I think that I'd rather be alone for the right reasons than with someone for the wrong reasons.
Okay,
And that's the best way to
totally
explain it.
understand that.
Yeah. Like I
Totally
don't I
understand
don't
that.
want to be with someone because I'm lonely or because we're both single and like we're the only options left. Like that's never gonna. Yeah, he's the last man on the planet. Yeah, obviously he's not. Like yeah, just yeah. But I don't. My thing is I also don't want to hold someone up and keep them away from the person that they're meant to be with.
What if it's
Um,
you?
no,
Hmm.
like I
Okay.
think if I know like.
Okay.
What if it's you? Nah, like if when it's the right person, you'll know. And I've met some amazing men. I have. Some not so amazing. Some like some entertaining and some not. But I think all the men that I've met are just amazing in their own rights. And it's always best to make sure you let something go that doesn't wasn't meant to be yours, and you have to acknowledge and know that it's okay to to do that, because you're allowing yourself, you're helping to redefine who and how you are, what it is
Hmm.
that you want, and acknowledge the fact that it's okay to say that this person, no matter like they're wonderful, but there's something that's still missing, there's something that's not connecting us, and you just have to accept the fact that okay, we weren't meant to be together. And I'll say for every guy that I've dated, trying to make sure I remember like all of them, for other just for every guy that I did, they are great guys, they're just great guys for other women. And I always wish and want for their happiness. There was never like a malicious make sure I'm not going to speak out of term. Have I ever cursed anybody out until now? No.
So, so what happens when you meet the guy? He checks off all your boxes.
We'll just keep going and take it day by day
Okay.
and just grow and see how we keep each other company. And the thing is, I think what people also misunderstand, as adults, we see it as we have changed through our lifetime, is that we grow individually. And if you're meant to grow with someone, like you kind of grow along the same path, it differently in your own ways. But if your path is taking you this way and that person's path is taking you that way, then you are meant, it's okay to like separate and do whatever. If
Mhm.
for some reason it brings you back to something in life, brings you back together, then that's something to reevaluate, and maybe that person has changed. But I'll say today, like the guys I dated are who they are, and they're all amazing in their own right. And
I'm gonna ask you one more question because
no,
you said
no,
if y'all growing, but I'm saying what happens if he checks off all your
he checks all the
boxes, moving
boxes.
it,
If he
he
checks
checks
all
off
the
all your
boxes,
boxes,
all the
and he's
boxes,
moving in the same direction that you're moving in.
then
What
we're
happens?
like, then we can stick it out and rock it together for as long as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, we can stick it out and rock it together. Like, oh my god, you want to be with me? Like, yeah, I want to be with you. Yeah, yeah. And then we're just happy together. You're like, yay! You're like you want to go and like hopscotch? Like, yeah, let's go hopscotch. You want to go like ride some bikes? Let's go ride some bikes. You want to go camping? Oh my god, I've got a tent. Let's go camping and grab your passport. Yeah,
Oh, see that's all I'm saying is if you meet Mr. Right and
yeah.
he checks off all your boxes and you look up and he's still standing there saying, "I love you and all your crazy,"
Yeah, oh my
and
god, you have to. Like, listen, I am a wildly entertaining crazy box of chocolates. Like, and
I
then
bet.
sometimes, yeah. For the most part, like I am I'm much quieter than many people think. But yeah, like I don't know to say like you never know what you're gonna get because I'm quite consistent in who and how I am. Because I think that at a certain point it's easier to just know who you are, just be consistent in that.
Uh huh.
But yeah, I think like once I meet the guy that I'm meant to be with, I'll know, he'll know. We'll just laugh and giggle the rest of our lives,
And
and
just
or
ride off into the sunset.
however long we're meant to be together, and we'll just like
You
cackle
you
along the
keep putting
way.
the end on it. What if it's not an end on it?
There's an end to everything.
What if it's?
Death.
I mean, of course, death.
Somebody's gonna die. Are we gonna die together? Are we going into ever after together? Like there's an end to everything. Like everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yeah, so oh my god, we met at the coffee shop. Like oh my god, and he's so cute. And then he made me laugh, and then she made me laugh. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to everything. And I just try to enjoy my time with whoever I'm with,
Uh
like
huh.
with that person as best I can, as much as I can, because tomorrow is never promised to anyone.
You true,
So yeah.
true, true, true. So how did you birth Shop the Hood?
Oh my god. Totally by accident. I've been out on disability and I had a difficult time moving around. And with my, I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis in just like December of 2021. And I had a product line, and I was following this woman, Stephanie Hall from Nosy Bystander TV, and she was on live talking about how she was starting up this new TV network called Nosy Bystander, and there was going to be all these black content creators. It was going to be a very black focused channel providing great content from all of these great, like half of the people that she mentioned I was already following and I was liking, and I was very much very new to TikTok. And next thing you know, I just reached out to her. I was just like, it's great that you're having this TV show, but you may consider having. I said, would you ever consider having a TV show that talks just about Black-owned businesses? I said because there are a lot of Black-owned businesses that need that extra platform and extra level of visibility, and it would be wonderful to be able to see a Black-owned network,
Mm.
and every ad or every commercial that came up was a Black-owned business. And she ended up reaching back out to me, and and honestly, I wasn't pitching the idea. I was just like, maybe could you consider this? It's like a don't forget the black owned businesses. If you do this, could you make space for them?
Mm-hmm.
And as we sat there on the phone and talked about it, she was just like, okay. And at the end, she goes, okay, well, you can do it. If she goes, okay, well, you can do that. And I'm like, I can do that. Like, I can do that. And I'm sitting here in my house trying to figure out how I'm breathing. Just I have sarcoidosis in my lungs, the amount of pain that I was going through at the time, and I was just bored and tired of going to doctor's appointments after doctor's appointments. And I was just like, you know what, this will keep me busy. I had no idea what I was doing, no
Mm-hmm.
idea whatsoever. And I was just okay, I'll just figure it out. And the first time I did an episode, I was just figuring things out, and then finally, somewhere like around like the third or fourth episode, I'm like, I get this. Like I kind of knew what I'm doing, and things were getting a little bit easier. And I was using StreamYard to do these interviews, and I was just, this is gonna be wonderful. And then I got involved with these amazing Black women, Jasmine and Kat, who Jasmine came up with the idea of Pink Takeover. And I was just like, that needs to be broadcast on TV. We can bring Black owned business owners. We can bring in Black women from around the world. We can have this great conversation and Black people from all over. And I was just like, oh my God. And yeah, that's all. Yeah. And then the TV network, you start realizing TV networks take a lot of even if it's streaming, take a lot of extra work and a lot of funding to
Right.
get platformed.
Uh-huh.
And it's not by accident. There's an immense amount of cash behind advertising and networking that is just sometimes not feasible for a small business to do, a small network to do. And as great of as a opportunity as that was, unfortunately it did not succeed. But it was a wonderful learning experience, and that's how Shop the Hood actually became Shop the Hood. And I'm trying to remember how I came up with the name. Um, yeah, it's like I was like, yeah, shop small, shop local, shop in your neighborhood, shop the hood. And I pitched the name to a good friend of mine who's a project manager, and he was just like, that could work.
Yeah.
And that's how Shop the Hood came into being. I came up with the logo. Um, I had already had a graphic artist that I was working with in previous projects and other things, and I had her draw me a black fist holding a wad of cash, and I literally took out the O and put that in its place. And to this day, that's so that yeah. And I just as I started to talk more and more about Black owned businesses, I started to realize, oh my God, there's an insane disparity here. And you start looking at the real numbers, because you start seeing business owners just absolutely struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
and it's difficult at best to have a business. It's difficult at best to have a business. It's extremely difficult to be a minority owned business. It is really, really difficult to be a Black owned business. And what a lot of people still don't realize is that really is a real certification. Um, Having a Black owned business is a certification that many people get the certification through, like a platform or a company called like WeBank Women's Business Entrepreneur Center. I think that's what the acronym is. And you can get WeBank certified and get your Black owned business certification through that. Or there is another platform that you can utilize to get your Black owned business certification. But Black owned businesses are denied loans 47% of the times,
Mm-hmm.
and they getting funding is not easy. And black owned businesses receive less than 1% of VC funding. So when Ariane Simone was sued for discriminatory actions, I thought it was kind of insane, because
Right.
like, why are you coming after this small portion of business owners? Like white owned businesses like garner, I think it was like 90%, some insane numbers. It's somewhere between 87% and higher of all VC funding. So what does our less than 1%, why do you care? Like, why is that a factor? And you start realizing, like, oh my God, they're like, the attack on business owners is always like a thing.
Yeah.
And with social media, theft of intellectual property, theft of videos, like it is. And then the scams, like it's just one thing after another. And it's not all these things are things that aid in hurting all small businesses, but what hurts all small businesses will always hurt black owned businesses even more.
Right.
And when you look at like bookstores who receive death threats, just because they're black owned, there was the bookstore that was in Raleigh. There was a children's bookstore in Raleigh, Durham, that opened up for kids, and it was a black owned bookstore. But somebody felt fault with that, and they were fielding death threats from the time they opened up their doors, even before they opened up the doors. And then at one point, the owner said that while her son was in the store, and I can't remember the kid's age, I want to say he was a little bit over the age of 10. Someone had called into the store and described exactly what he was wearing.
Mm.
And I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I don't know how I would feel if I'm with my one of my nieces or nephews and someone were to describe remotely what they were wearing,
You
like the
going to
level
jail?
of fear and rage. Yeah,
Yeah,
like yeah, I've got
100%.
several. Yeah, like, but you don't know who they are, and that's the thing. Like you don't all you're receiving is a phone call. You don't know who these people are. You don't know where they are. You don't know how credible the threat is. But the fact that they're describing what your child is wearing is that they are somewhere in your line of sight. Um, People wonder why I have a permit to carry. There you go. They like it's not. I think, and some people always ask, like, why am I so passionate about making sure that, we talk about these things and we have this conversation? It's because
Hmm.
if we don't have this conversation, then we're going to start losing out on a lot of businesses. And I don't want people to get scammed at the same time. People
Right.
are shopping, they're just shopping with the wrong businesses.
Right.
And if they knew where to properly shop, where to go, who you could be shopping with and who you shouldn't be shopping with, then you could save yourself a lot of money, angst, and a loss of a business, because you're looking at over $1 billion. It was close to like, it was $1.4 billion lost to scams just on social media. So
Hmm.
people are shopping, and
Right.
those are just the numbers based off of who's claimed that they've been scammed.
So, with you starting that, have you had any of the business owners to reach out to you as far as success stories and testimonies? Like thanking you for the exposure and putting you in the magazine and putting you in your catalog and things like that.
I do get a lot of business owners that thank me for speaking up and platforming them and talking about their product line. Um, but I primarily do it because it needs to be done.
Hmm.
For me, it's not about like receiving the thank yous or any type of accolades. I feel like we have to save what we've got, because if we don't work hard, if we don't work in some capacity to shore up some of the things that are going wrong, and the only reason they're going wrong is because there's these subversive actors who just are acting in their own best interests.
Hmm.
They don't care. These scammers, the people who are duplicitous, they don't care about anybody else. And I don't care if they're in Asia, I don't care if they're in Africa, I don't care if they're Central or South America or the Middle East, or here in the United States. They're all over. You never know where they are or who they are. But what they're doing is they're actively draining funds out of the communities that need the funding
Right.
and that are having a hard time getting it. And if we keep, looking the opposite way of understanding what's actually happening, when we turn back around to wonder, oh, what happened to that coffee shop that used to be here? Oh, yeah, we stopped shopping there. We were only shopping at, this fancy multi-billion-dollar corporation that's more like a bank than a coffee shop.
Right.
Like, there's just some places that really don't need our money. And to have that diversity, to have your kids grow up and see other black people in positions of ownership is very much inspirational. Like, as you said at the top of this interview, how important was it to see my father, or have my father in my life? It's an important thing to a point, but it's most important to be able to see ourselves in places of powerful
Right.
positions
For
of
sure.
ownership. And I think because I was consistently exposed to that, seeing people who own their own mechanic shops, seeing people who own their own businesses, seeing people who made things with their hands. That was much more impressionable upon me than the presence or lack thereof of a parental figure, because every adult to me that looked like me was a role model. From the business owner to that manufacturer of whatever product, to the engineer, to the ice skater, like all these people that came across my path were all role models to me.
Hmm.
Debbie Thomas, for the time when she was ice skating in the Olympics, regardless of how people feel about her now, as children, when we saw her ice skating, we're like, oh my God, there's a Black woman ice skating.
Right.
Syria Bonali doing the first backflip, on ice on one foot.
Right.
Just
That
all
got
this,
banned. That
yeah.
the move got
And,
banned.
and that the move got banned. But the
Right.
fact that she did it, and she did it in such an outrageous fashion of joy and happiness, and smiled at every turn, showed us that we could actually defy that level of judgment and just keep going and do what we want to do. It is absolutely possible, and still be happy and
For
still be
sure.
successful. So all these role models and all these places are absolutely necessary. So when you start to see certain things fall away because there's the money that used to be going in that direction, or used to be going down that lane, is being diverted to scammers and other avenues. I feel like if we knew better, we'd do better. And it is not in the way that it's super altruistic, because, like, if I tell you that there's a scam going on and they stole this Black woman's content, you're most likely to shop with that woman whose content was stolen, because you don't want to get scammed. It's
Right.
not really so much about you supporting that woman. You'd prefer not to get scammed.
For sure.
So I think most people are just like, you know what? Let me go shopping where it's safer. Like, I'll get the product. It's going to come to me. Whereas over here, if this other business is just taking content, and the Better Business Bureau is saying, oh, good luck if you actually we've got alerts on that company, because they're huge and thousands of people complaining that they're not getting products. Then all of a sudden you're like, let me protect my own person and my wallet. It's not done altruistically. It's a survivalist instinct. You want to make sure that you're going to get ahead any way possible, and the information I'm providing to you, so that it protects your wallet, it informs you, and now you know where there's a safe place to go shopping from that Black owned business. So it comes full circle.
I think it's amazing, and I can think back to the first time I think I seen you. My wife and I, we were in franchising. At that time, we had a 9 round, which is a kickboxing gym, and I think I think you had mentioned like, hey, kind of drop your business in the chat. I mean, in the bottom or something like that. And I think I put our business in there, and well, so my wife we're still in franchising, but we're trying to move into some different spaces, and everything that you're saying is kind of where we are, just as where we are as a family,
Hmm.
with the exposure, with making sure that um, black owned businesses, minority owned businesses get exposure, get we try to shop as much as we possibly can in spaces, and get the money circulating back into our community. My wife just started her she has a consulting business where she's teaching minority women how to get these certificates, the certifications, to do deals, to get these government contracts.
Hmm.
So she's doing that. So we're trying to make sure that we do our part on our end to make sure businesses get exposed. And again, I just really appreciate the your platform, because without your platform, it's a lot of stuff that you say. You be like, oh, you can find that on page. And I'm like, yeah, let me go to the catalog. So here, y'all, go check out our website right here, shopthehoodtv.com. Pull
There it
her
is.
up, download the catalog. If you are in any of the areas, go support these businesses. for the most part. I think she's vetted a lot of the businesses. I've seen, if you go on her TikTok, there's one where she runs through some of the places that she been, some of the cafes and some of the hotels and some of the things like that she's frequent and paid and so this is a very, very, very good resource right here. Pull her up, shopthehoodtv.com, subscribe to her newsletter, do all the things that she have going on. Pull her up on Instagram and TikTok. I believe this is her TikTok. Yes, this is her
Yeah.
TikTok right here. Go
Yeah.
follow, go follow, go follow her, because if you go through her content, you'll see that she is about black empowerment, and she's about exposure to people stealing our content, and then she's about exposure to people who have things that we need to buy. We just don't know that they're out here. So she does an amazing job at making sure the people that are in her catalog gets exposure. And you can also follow her on Instagram. She's on Threads. Even go follow her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Go follow all of it. Be a
Oh my
part of
God.
her community. Be a part of what she's doing. Be a part of all the information that she's putting out. I'm a firm believer that you may not know her directly, but if you want to be mentored by her, guess what you can do? Just follow her content. You can be in her. You can follow her content, and you can have direct access to her through her content.
Yeah.
And so I'm just encouraging everybody. The holidays are coming up. We're going to be getting into this season where there's going to be billions of dollars circulating through in this world. Why not go ahead and just funnel some of that money, redirect some of those funds to some small minority businesses, and some of them might be large minority businesses. To minority business, how about we just take the description off, to minority businesses, and get a high quality product. And if you kind of scrambling around and kind of searching, you need to download the catalog
Yeah.
at Shop the Hood. You have to. She is an amazing. She's doing some amazing things, y'all. And if she wasn't, I probably wouldn't have asked her to be on here, because I love having people who are making a difference in the community on my show, and she's doing. And not only she's making a community where she's at, those those companies in that catalog are all over. They're
Yeah.
not just in
United
Philly or
States.
Jer.
Yeah.
They're companies that are everywhere.
Yeah.
And so just think about the impact that she's making by having the exposure to a company that's in Oregon, or somewhere that's in Texas, or somewhere that's in Ohio, that would normally not get the exposure if it was not for the catalog. So I really appreciate you pulling up. I have one last question for you, though.
Ask away. Ask away.
One last question. What is something that you didn't learn growing up that you had to learn the hard way as you got older?
Something I had to learn the hard way. Oh my goodness. It's just kind of, it's funny you say it like that, because that was something my dad always impressed upon me. He was just like, yeah, don't learn things the hard way. Um, um, how important time is.
Mm,
How important time is. And it's not what, like, I think time is really important. And the most important time that you have is always right now. And the time you have with your loved ones and your family, because like I said, like, tomorrow's never guaranteed.
mm-hmm,
And I know that, and I say that simply because I know that I was the last person that that talked to my father before he died. And time is the most important thing in life. So yeah, that's the one thing I had to learn the hard way, is that, you know, you're not guaranteed tomorrow to say I love you, to um, say all the things, to have the conversations that need to be had, to ask those hard questions. uh, Tomorrow's never guaranteed. So while you have the time with that family member, that friend, looking at that opportunity that you've been crossing your fingers or hoping would happen, you have to just sometimes make things happen, because tomorrow's never guaranteed. And the idea of saying I wish I could have, that was a hard lesson to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, I can I can really run that, um and but I'm not. I totally I get it. I get it cuz I was the last person that my dad talked to.
Hmm.
So we can't take time for granted, y'all.
Yeah.
It is the
So
most valuable commodity that we have.
there is nothing
So
more important in life than time. And if you need to
yes,
do something scared, then do it scared.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Y'all, I had a good time. You got anything else you want to say to the people?
Um, Stay tuned with Shop the Hood, because there's some things that'll be dropping in the next several days. So hope you guys will like what the guide starts to open up to. Um, we'll just be adding more and doing more for the community. That's the ultimate goal. So I'm absolutely trying to move into the true phase 2 of this. So stay tuned and stick around, because the whole platform of Shop the Hood really is meant to pour back into our community by any means necessary.
And I think you're doing an amazing job at doing that. And just 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 keep grinding and keep exposing, keep clapping back. If you need me to do a duet with you on a video when we clapping, I'm all about clapping
Oh
back.
my God, just keep sharing the content. Just keep sharing the content.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let somebody
yeah,
else know.
you are an amazing person, and I appreciate you pulling up. And yeah, I heard it here first. Value the time, y'all. Value time. Value your time. Value your time. And with that being said, it's been an amazing interview.
Thank you,
I'm your boy,
Maurice.
C. Maurice Ball. I love you like a play cousin, and I'm out. Peace.